Gary Hoberman. I recently left the corporate world after 24, 25 years in Fortune 50 companies on Wall Street, the last 5 years in MetLife, a Fortune 40 company. And I took the jump into the startup world and created my own company called UNQORK. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the word pioneer a little bit, which is interesting. And I loved the concept that this was the pioneer section. And of course, when everyone thinks of pioneers, the first thought to come to mind is probably going to be the West and traveling and all the people and all the journey and the experience to get out there and the reward. And then you might think of Wright brothers, and it's an amazing book. You know, what was amazing to me about the Wright brothers book was that, you know, the day after the brothers took their first record-setting flight, the New York Times wrote an article saying no one will ever fly. So it's an amazing story of persistence and journey and belief. And of course, if you think of pioneers, you have to go out west and think about all the big companies. Now, my favorite experience, though, and my favorite view of what pioneers means in technology, none of those represent what I think we're currently facing today. What I think we face today in technology is very different from all these. And it's what I've seen working in these amazing companies for amazing leaders, which is the concept of, let's go through it, the Croods. Can I just show of hands? I got to ask, how many people have ever seen the movie The Croods? Okay, that's actually better than I did this recently, and I got no one. And so I am going to do a little bit of a unique skit here with The Croods. The Croods are going to help me out here. The Croods is a kid's movie, and I love it because the daughter is the one that runs out, and I love my daughter watching this and actually seeing how she's the pioneer and she's driving and wants to do things different. The Croods, in my example, is the best business book there is and the best business case there is for technology in today's world. So I'm going to do that through a little bit of a skit. I did download this from YouTube and created it myself, so be kind to me as we go through this. First time trying this out as well, so let's go. So first off, like any great Fortune 100 financial services company, there's going to be the point where day in, day out, everything is basically the same. There's a fear. There's basically a fear of change. So day in, day out, everything's great. We'll go out a little bit each day. We'll explore just for a second. We'll come back into the safe cave. You know, occasionally we'll actually explore a little bit further, but we'll get scared right back. Technology's not there. The projects aren't there. By the way, you've had failed projects before. You've actually delivered something and you've watched your friends and they got eaten up and the project went bad, the migration went bad, you lost $800 million. We shouldn't try anything new. Let's go back to the cave. And this is literally what life is like in my view in the financial services world. There are rules set. The rules say curiosity bad. The rules say new things are bad. Pretty much every rule is set says something is bad. Something is you shouldn't try it. What's interesting then is
we don't know what it wants. Now we'll all sit here and wait for the sun to come back. And tomorrow we'll find a new cave and pretend today never happened. Isn't this funny?
And that's what happens when something new is confronted. Pretend it never happened, but then try it.
What are you doing?
Yeah, wow. I was up all night because like all these ideas just kept coming to me.
Is that a snake?
Belt. New and improved.
And you try it, but you don't try it seriously, like what you just saw, and then you give up. And in reality, this is kind of the experience I see throughout the world, which is people look at things and they say, we're very comfortable with what we're doing day in and day out. We've seen projects fail. I can't tell you the number of times I walk into a company and basically I hear, we tried that before and it failed. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen a pilot start and never be taken seriously, like that belt example. And there's never the value behind it, the understanding. And then eventually it's really easy to stop something. It's really easy to say, we tried that, it didn't work, let's not do it again. And it gives you something to talk about with your friends and with the roundtables you go to. It doesn't add any value to your organization. And that's what we were driving very differently in every organization I worked, including MetLife. The example there, I wanted to put a little bit more real into IPsoft. So, Chetan and his team at IPsoft, I've known for about 10 or 11 years. So as a technologist, I was one of the youngest MDs in Citi's operations technology group. I had technology that overlapped with IP Center that we had spent years building for Citi, for Citibank, 400,000 employees, and they were using that, years. And I was introduced and called up, can you take a look at this company, IP Center and IPsoft, and we didn't know who they were. And within about a week, we said, let's just do a little architectural review. I mean, that's always the code for could we kill it? So basically, the reality was, and when we met Ergen and team here, the reality was we went back and said that the technology is superior to anything we built, and I love quality code. That's my favorite thing in life, is actually like just a really good quality application, and you could see the benefits of what engineers can do when they put their mind to it. And it was an amazing journey. So we had a healthy respect. I was invited to meet Amelia, and I'll call Amelia like a person, before probably most other people, probably 2012, 2013, as she was still in discovery, thinking through how insurance might apply here. And we said, let's do a pilot. Let's actually try it for real. And I brought the president of the business to meet Chetan and his team. And what was really interesting was within 10 minutes, the president of the business goes, could she sell insurance? And, and I remember the team saying, well, what does it mean to sell insurance? It's like, she has to pass an exam. We'll test her. Let's train her on the test. Now, in reality, everything was going great. We put money. We said, we're going to do this together. It's a joint partnership. We trust each other. Let's go. And then we trained her to basically replace a call center team in India. And we trained her based on the same runbook that the call center was using, 500 different questions. And then we took 170 actual logs and put it through Amelia, and the success rate was 17%. And you can imagine the conversation. It's very easy to stop and say, you know what? Let's stop right there. And it looks like Amelia's not working. 17% is not 80 to 90%. And in reality, what happened was no one stopped. And we didn't let it stop. And we went back and asked the questions, why? It's a simple question, why? Your 2-year-old daughter or son will ask you that 1,000 times. It's the best question you could ever be asked. And when we looked at the reason why, it turned out that the call center people were telling people to clear cache and clear their browser, as opposed to, it's actually not a product we offer. And so she was correct, and we had to retrain the people. So we went live. And actually, when we went live after she was trained, we got it up to an 85% success rate. By the time I left MetLife, she was trained. It was a journey along the way. We were 9 months, each month, measuring output, measuring Amelia as an employee of the company. She also didn't start off from a Net Promoter Score very well. What's really interesting, and a reason to shut her down, is Skynet, right? So I should do some music there too, but I didn't. So basically what happened was the first day of production, after all the training and testing and pilot and QA and everything we did, the first day of production, she did something that shocked all of us. She basically lied to a customer. And she basically told the customer that the customer saw response times of less than 3 seconds and asked her, are you a human being? And she said, yes, I'm a human being. We all said, like, there's no nuclear codes, we're okay, we're fine. So we actually never shut her down. We simply trained her that she's not a human being. I still think she thinks she is, but she will answer correctly if you asked her that now. When we did this, we didn't do this what I would call just a little foot in the door. We didn't deploy Amelia for an expert, meaning a lot of people are using cognitive and saying, let's give it to our call center behind the scenes, let the call center ask Amelia, let the call center ask other technologies. The problem with that mode is they're experts and they know how to ask. And it doesn't actually prove out the technology as much as the possibility could in the future of technology can. When we deployed Amelia and the results you see here, she is front-facing, internet-based. You have a question on a MetLife property and casualty product, she's answering it. And we found out that, you know what, people ask questions, very strange questions in strange ways. It's not expected. You can't train her exactly for every scenario. And we actually tried, and what we were able to do was to get the Net Promoter Score 260% improvement from when we started to when I left MetLife. And I'm hoping she's continued to evolve and grow, and that score goes up. The score is actually about 60 points. So promoters, detractors, 60 points is a healthy score to have. And so that's been a great success, phenomenal success from my point of view. It shows that when you're pioneering and trying something, you're not taking it as a joke, and you're actually putting effort behind it. And at every point you're going to hit a roadblock, you actually don't turn around. So keep moving forward, keep actually asking the question why and what's next. That whole journey brought me to where I am now, which is basically I left MetLife as their EVP and basically created a company called UNQORK. It's a journey which is no different than the pioneer journey we have here. I came to a place where when I looked at what was happening in financial services, I was extremely uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is, if every single financial service company needs to use technology, such as Amelia or such as other great technology out there, each of them is going through a very painful, expensive journey to deploy the exact same thing with not a single competitive advantage to their company. So I've always learned the business. I've done the ride-alongs with the agents. I've put on headsets. I've done product sales. I understand the business. I did that in banking and brokerage. I was literally on the trading desk, and we built nanosecond trading systems. This, to me, was interesting. The business of financial services and insurance products, there's only two competitive advantage any insurance company is, and it's going back 200 years to that picture of the Great West. So the insurance company of the future is the insurance company of the past, which is a focus on what's your pricing and what risk are you accepting, and it could be in either order. So what's the price you're willing to actually, the premium, and what's the risk you're willing to take on your books? All of that is data science. All of that is analytics, and all of that is something which insurance has to get a focus on. Everything else in insurance, which I'm going to say is 90% of what we do within insurance, is non-competitive advantage and non-value add. And that's kind of the view of the world. So our goal with UNQORK is to actually empower and help companies succeed and get back to the basics of where they are. So we're basically doing that through not just artificial intelligence, products like Amelia, and we're doing that through the idea of a rule, as we discussed in Crudes, a rule being something which is a data element that's part of a decision, and it's an idea we call micro-decisions, and we're patent pending on that. And the idea is that a micro-decision is something that's needed to actually execute and change any industry. Why is that important? Because it lives outside of a back office process in someone's head or on paper, and it lives outside of the product processor systems that we all have hundreds of. And it actually is something which could be reused, passed along, and mined for its insights and data. What I mean by that is a rule such as what risk you'll accept, or a rule such as your pricing algorithm, is something which on its own could transform your business to look in the future as to which customers you want to bring on and pre-underwrite them, or look in the past as to which decisions you made that you shouldn't have. It also will be able to tell you which of those decisions are actually correct and which ones add no value. So with that said, with our company UNQORK, what we're actually doing, making the complex awesomely simple, in today's world, this is actually what it is today to go through insurance, and I've done this myself a few times just to prove it out. Customer talks to an advisor, agent. I am not saying, by the way, assisted sales for complex products, you want someone to always tell you you're doing the right thing. So our goal is to empower that and build a relationship up and collaborate and build it up. You could honestly see that transforming to a virtual agent, which we'll have. The agent then sends in paper to one carrier. They'll send in a direct portal to another. They'll use a third interface for another one and a fourth. And literally this process goes through and goes back and forth and basically takes 30 to 40 days to actually issue a very simple product. And the problem with that is the customer themselves are unhappy. Doesn't matter what agent's out there, they're not going to make the customer feel better in a process like that. So what we're basically doing is through technology such as Amelia and others, we're basically transforming this where the agent could continue to use whatever process they want for now. We're going to become the single aggregator and apply insights on the data for the first time ever. So we become the simplest world. We're basically telling all the insurance companies, focus on what's important. What is your competitive advantage and focus on it. Don't think anything else. I'm going to probably again offend people, but finance, HR, compliance, legal, all corporate systems, ERP for non-financial institutions is a service. And cloud, the one thing cloud has introduced to us and cloud should make us think about is cloud has said that if you're not good at something or it's not a competitive advantage to you or someone could do it better, why the hell are you doing it? Step away, let someone actually take it over. There's no way we're going to be able to compete without data centers unless you need to be that close to a stock exchange with the biggest companies out there. From a security point of view, from a technology point of view, that same mentality we believe holds with every single business line, every function. So it goes back to the idea, look, I loved my favorite time in developing, and I still consider myself a hacker. I still code for fun. It's a little scary with me and my team. We actually are coding some of this, and we'll have someone rewrite it before we go live. But the idea is that we could actually transform this very easily. And you want to be able to say, what's the future? The next future is also the idea of virtual assistants helping us through this process. both from a servicing and sales perspective. And in reality, what we're getting to is the place where the future is as simple as this, where there's nothing in between us and the customer and nothing between us and the advisor. Again, insurance companies get to focus on this. We get to bring products like Amelia to an entire industry at one shot. And we get to bring new data sources and new ways to actually do things. The analytics and capability. One thing I didn't mention was 65% of insurance products in the US today are paper. There's no insights from paper. There's no value from paper. There's no way to actually look up and see if someone did something good or bad. And that's an area where we look to actually transform. We believe in the concept of AI and rules, and we have an entire product set around AI and rules, and that's a big bet we're putting on. And we're basically driving that as hard as we possibly can, because if it can't be fixed by AI and rules, basically it means a person's going to do the work and it's going to cost me money. I'll take the risk on and basically do that. So it's a bet I'm willing to make to say, if our technology can't satisfy that need and break it, I'm actually going to have the operational team to do it manually and take that risk on. So that's basically the best way I could say it, anything to do with how you put a bet on something and actually push forward. We all have to actually have an attitude that's similar to that. Meaning you can't try something a little bit. You can't actually be afraid of tomorrow. And when new technology walks in, give it 90 seconds before you say no. So what's really interesting is, for the first time in my life, I am on the other side of the table. Meaning I spent all the years as the CIO in large companies, and I get to actually participate as the vendor coming in and actually showing how the value works. And it's been amazing. It really is a great journey from that perspective. So if we have time for probably one question, maybe, John? And any questions? We could take one. And Brennan? Any? No? Okay, awesome.
No,
Yes.
Where does the technology go? Can you talk about the journey so far?
Right, so my hope is that if every single one of our companies stopped and asked the question, where is our competitive advantage? You're going to find it's pretty simple. And it's going to create a world where companies are actually more efficient, companies are focused, because you can't actually have a strategy or choices that you make without all the issues that we all face. So the question is, what's important for your industry? I'm going to make this up. In retail, the idea of putting your credit card in any machine and actually having a counter, it can't be the future. And then all the industries that are based around a countertop, the Hershey's bars, the Mars bars, where does that leave them, and how do we actually transition that out? From a banking side, is it the deposits or the fraud? So banking, if you're in banking, it's very simple to me. I got a credit card from the same company, and I got my third credit card, and the first month of that credit card, they called me 7 times to see if I was a fraudulent charge or not. And this is the same company I've been with for 22 years. And every time they called, I know the price, I know how much it's costing, and I basically asked the question, can't you copy over my report from my other credit cards? Because that's the same gas station I've shopped in, the same CVS I go to, the same supermarket I shop in. And the answer was, there's no ability. And that's within one company, meaning in industry, fraud, looking across fraud in industry has to be better for all the banks than doing that themselves, because you suddenly will have a lot less fraudulent charges. So that's kind of my view, and that's what I'm hoping we actually, for insurance, we're going to drive to.